Welcome back, my dear friends, to day number 49. We're on page 296 in the Orchos Tzaddikim, ways of the upright, ways of the righteous and of the pious, and we're in the Treasure for Life edition. Ve'od hamida azos b'nafsho shel odom lahasig nekama ba'oivav. He says the trait of a man, the nature of man, is that we want to make it even with, we want to take revenge of our enemies. As it states, and he will not be merciful on his day of revenge. Right? This is, we know from King Solomon in Proverbs. When you're taking revenge, that's not exactly when mercy pops out. Perush, kisheyesh nekama ein chemlo el achzoris. He says, what does it mean? Meaning to say that where there is revenge, there is no mercy, but rather only cruelty. So we see, lo sikom lo titar. The verse states in Leviticus, do not take revenge and do not bear a grudge. Afilu litor belev huzharnu. Our sensitivity is that even to bear a grudge. What does it mean to bear a grudge? What does it mean don't take revenge? The Torah tells us taking revenge means that if you go to your friend and you ask him to borrow his hammer, and he says, no, I can't, I'm not lending you my hammer. So next week he comes to your house, and he says, can I borrow your hammer? So nekama, revenge, would be saying, no, you didn't lend me, I'm not going to lend you. That's revenge, and that's a prohibition in the Torah, Leviticus 19, verse 18. What is bearing a grudge? Is now your friend comes and asks you for that hammer, and you say to him, I'm not going to be like you. You see, when I asked you last week to borrow a hammer, you said no, but I'm better than that, and therefore I'm going to lend it to you. That's bearing a grudge, and the Torah says, don't either do that. Don't either do that. That's the sensitivity the Torah teaches us. Even don't make him feel bad. What do you mean? The guy, well, an eye for an eye, no? That's in the world of bearing a grudge. That's in the world of cruelty. But we're Achmanim. We're a people, a nation that is embedded and instilled within our DNA, mercy. Kol shekain shelo lasos maseh biyodayim lahakos es chavero. Even more so, a person has to be so careful to never raise a hand on another person, to hit another person. Halo af im nofal below pshiaso lo yismach. Even if your enemy fell without you causing him to fall, he fell on his own. Oh, he deserved it. He deserved it. You see, you started me. I didn't even have to hit you back. God hit you for me. You're not supposed to smile and be happy about that. King Solomon tells us in Proverbs 24, when your enemy falls, do not rejoice. And when he stumbles, let your heart not be glad. See the sensitivity that we see here is unbelievable. This Torah is teaching us how to conduct ourselves properly. He says, this person who's taking revenge or bears a grudge is not someone who's forgiving. They're not forgiving. Okay, your friend hurt you. Okay, so forgive them. Fine, they hurt you. Move on. No, he can't. He's holding that grudge. And this, you know what this does? This leads to a trail of conflict, to hatred, to fights. And we already know how important and how precious the trait of peace is. So this all comes because I can't forgive and because I can't forget. Oh, you didn't this. You didn't invite me to your child's wedding, so I'm not going to invite you to mine. It goes and it's endless. I can't even tell you how many times I've had people sitting right here who've had situations where after class they said, you know what, I think I should reach out to my sibling I haven't spoken to, or my sister-in-law I haven't spoken to, or a child I haven't spoken to. It's so important. You know what's, okay, so they're right and you're wrong. What's going to be now? What's going to be if they're right and you're wrong? So admit, Be a bigger person. I was wrong, and I'm sorry, and I beg your forgiveness. I was wrong. The problem is that our arrogance gets so high and so uplifted that we're like, I don't apologize. I don't apologize. That's not a way of the Torah. Definitely not a way of the Torah. Ubichlal ha'achzarius, included in the category of cruelty, hagozel chaveru me'umo mishalo, ubezeh mitzayer oso, is someone who steals anything which belongs to your friend, thereby causing him pain, any pain. Ve'onesh gadol yesh legozel ani, and there is a great punishment in stealing from the poor person. Ve'chayav molei amisa, even warranting the death penalty. As it is written, do not steal from the poor man, because he is poor. Al tigzol dal kidalhu. He's poor. Poor guy. He's already impoverished enough with humility, with humiliation. You have to steal from him now more. And what does it mean to steal? To steal his dignity, to steal his pride, not necessarily to steal their money. Ki Hashem yoriv rivam v'kava is kovehem nefesh. For Hashem will fight their battle, the verse says, and spoil the souls of the spoilers. V'afal pi sheyesh averos gdolos chamuros min hagezel. And even though there are sins and transgressions that are far greater than theft, Onesh hagezel chamum ra'od. The punishment for theft is extremely severe. K'dichsiv b'dor Mabel, as it states with the generation of the flood. Remember by Noach with the flood and the ark, and it rained 40 days and 40 nights. For what? What did they do? Kates kol basar balifanai. At the end of the portion of Genesis, of Bereshis, the first portion of the Torah, that says this verse: Kates kol basar balifanai ki mala haaretz Chamas mipnehem. The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with robbery through them. Now, robbery doesn't only mean stealing from someone's wallet, slipping the Rolex off their hand, or breaking into their car, or cheating people in a business deal. That's not the only type of theft. You can steal in many, many other ways. You can steal people's time. You can steal people's attention. Someone is about to get an honor and you make a whole commotion to distract everybody. That's stealing someone's honor. You can steal someone's intention. There's gnevas das. You know that if you walk in Israel, this is very, very common. Unfortunately. You walk into, you say it's very, very hot in Israel, just like it is here in Texas. And sometimes it's like so unbearably hot. You're waiting for a bus, you're waiting for a cab, you're waiting for your Uber to come. And what are you going to do? So you see a local store, you see a store right there, and you decide, okay, I'm going to walk into the store because it's air conditioned. And I'll look around. Of course, I'm not intending to buy anything. I walk into the store just to benefit from the air conditioning. You're stealing the intention of the store owner. They think you walked in, I have a sale coming. They get excited. Like, they came in just for the AC. Unless a person comes in and says, is it okay that I just browse or look around, stay in the cool while I'm waiting for a bus? Maybe I'll buy something, maybe not. I don't, And they say, sure, go right ahead. That's not stealing their intention. You're not stealing their intellect. That's a different type of stealing. Amar Rabbeinu Sa'al Melea Onos Avonos Ein Mekatreg Bikulam Kemo Gezel. If you have, our sages tell us that if you have a basket filled with sins, none of them are as incriminating as that of theft. Umish mitzar yosam v'almana, and anyone who causes pain or anguish to an orphan or to a widow by stealing from them, begezel, o bahachlimam, o b'chol or by shaming them, or in any other way, mischayev misa b'dei shemayim. Such a person is warranting a penalty of death from heaven. That means you don't take him to a court and they throw him off a roof. No, that doesn't happen. But in the heavens, there's a strike of death against this person. What does that mean? How do we understand that? So think of it like this. If someone is, loses their brakes in their car, and now the heavenly courts are saying, should we save this guy or not save him? Should we save him or not save him? We can have the car swerve into the brush and he'll be saved, or go into oncoming traffic and he's done. Well, do we have that strike against us? Or do we have that mercy from heaven? The mercy from heaven is where God says, it's a merciful person, it's a good person. We'll save him. Let's get the car swerved out into the brush. Or, God forbid, they can say, look, this guy had no mercy on the orphan, had no mercy on the widow. For what are we keeping this person around? Heaven forbid we should never ever be in such a situation. But we understand the severity of this sin of causing pain or anguish to an orphan, to a widow, or to a convert. Mischayev misa b'dei shamayim v'chein hadayonim shebiyodam lahatzilam yad okshehem ve'ein donin din yosem v'almana b'nei maveshem. So too, judges who are in a position to rescue them from their oppressors and do not judge in favor of the orphan and the widow, they incur the penalty of death. The judges. Why? As it is written, do not afflict any widow or orphan. Kol almana v'yosem lo sanun. Uchsiv im ane ta'ane oisoi ki im tza'ok yitz'ak elai shamoa eshma tza'aka. So listen to these words. Okay? It's all in duplicitous term. Not extra. But everything is doubled. Im ane ta'ane. If afflict, you will afflict. And cry, they shall cry. Listen, I will listen to their cry. Meaning, you go out of your way to afflict them. They cry more severely because you've afflicted them. I'm going to listen more intently to their cries. The result being, what's going to be the result? God forbid, the Torah tells us that the result will be that my wrath will burn, and I will kill you by the sword, and your wives will be widows, and your children will be orphans. That's how careful we need to be. There's a story I had recently where someone was in a dispute with a widow. They asked me, what should I do? I said, don't mess with the widow. They have special powers on their side. And then I met somebody who told me the most incredible story. He said, this is in New York, and he said that they drew up plans to renovate their home, to make it really a big, beautiful, the way they do it in New York is that if you keep the framework of the old house, you don't have to pay for the new house tax and all of that. It's just like an expansion. It was going to be a mega expansion on their old little shack of a house. But someone brought it to their attention that their neighbor, the woman next door, was a widow. And she is very, very finicky and very, very testy with her neighbors, as they knew. And that she would be very difficult, and she would have a very difficult time with their construction. So the guy doesn't know what to do. He already paid the architect. He already paid all of that stuff. They use, the stuff before they start the construction, and they get I think they already submitted the plans to the city. It's a very expensive ordeal already, all that. He called his rabbi. He says to his rabbi, what do I do? The rabbi says, you don't mess with a widow. You don't cause pain to a widow and orphans. Don't do it. But there's such an enormous expense that he's going to lose. He says, you're not going to lose anything by doing the right thing to the widow and the orphan. Comes home, and him and his wife decide they're tearing up the plans, and they're doing the will of Hashem. They're fulfilling this verse to not to cause pain to a widow. And you could say, hey, by law, there's no problem. You have a problem, it's your problem. Right? No, that's not the way the Torah operates. You're right, you're right, but you're wrong. Listen to this. He said, a few days later, someone comes over to him and says, there's a house that's almost going on the market. There's someone who just built a brand new, beautiful home a few blocks away from them. And the person, for whatever reason, he loved that house. He loved every detail of the house. He went out of his way and made everything so perfect. But he had a big challenge in his business, and now he has to move. He's moving to a different state, and he just wants to get rid of the house. He said they moved into that house. They bought that house. They moved into that house. It's the biggest blessing. He said they couldn't have dreamt for such a gift from Hashem. It's a nicer neighborhood, nicer area, nicer block. It's a bigger house than they would have. It costed them less. Don't mess with the widow. And the amount of blessing you bring into your life. This is what we see here. The Torah is all about mercy. The Torah is all about mercy. The Torah is not about cruelty, not about causing pain and affliction and harm. Mida keneged mida. Neshechem almonos keneged inui almonos. Benechem yisomim keneged inui yisomim. There's an act for an act, a measure for measure. Your wives will become widows because you pained a widow. Your children will become orphans because you pained an orphan. Measure for measure. We see that if it's in a negative, it's definitely in a positive. If you cause joy to a widow, the reward for that. If you cause joy to an orphan, the reward for that. V'amitzayir kol ish mi Yisrael over below say. And in any case, the Torah says, Lo sonu ish es amiso v'yoresim elokecha. You're not allowed to cause pain to any Jew. Do you know that if you walk over to someone and you just a random person, you say, that's an ugly tie. That is a really nasty outfit. You cause them pain. You just violated a biblical prohibition. The Torah says you cannot cause pain to another Jew. Any pain. We're not talking about punching them. Any pain. It's a biblical prohibition. V'zeh lo sonu b'onas dvarim amor. V'amar Rabbeinu Zochron L'Rocha kol hasha'orim nin'olim chutz misharei ona. Says, what does it say about lo sonu? Lo sonu means with insult. You shouldn't hurt another Jew with insult, with words. But we know that that's the bottom of it. That's the least of it. Causing actual pain to another Jew is even more severe. Therefore, a person has to be so careful and so meticulous to not cause pain to another person. Lo b'maseh v'lo b'dvarim. Not in action, and definitely not in words. My dear friends, this concludes day number 49. I look forward to continuing day 50 tomorrow.